Hello, welcome to the latest episode of To the Edge. I'm Roland Kroshidian, your host.
I'm Mike Messier, your lovable co-host.
And with us today is Brian Casey, the director of Alone.
Hello.
And the star, Sissy O'Hara.
Hello.
Good to see you, Sissy.
Good to see you, Mike.
So it's great to have you guys on the set.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. So let's do a brief recap of Alone for those who are unfamiliar with the film.
Okay. Alone is about a woman who falls into hard times, and she ends up on the street homeless.
That's it in a nutshell.
That's it in a nutshell, yes.
And she goes on these not adventures, but she goes on this character journey where she meets, in her quest for survival, right, Sissy? She goes on these conversations with friends, and she's trying to cover up the situation. She attempts to get a job. She really is looking for shelter and food, and it's pretty deep.
Yeah, she does spend a lot of time on the streets, but we did film in February in Newport, and the weather was very conducive for the character development because it was so brutally cold. And one night wasn't with the wind chill factor 20 degrees below zero.
Pretty close.
And it really helped in getting the essence of being homeless in the wintertime, because we were out there for hours and hours and, freezing. Everybody, cast, crew, everybody was out there. And
Wow, what kind of director put you through that?
I know, huh?
somebody that really wants their characters shaking.
Yeah, method acting, that's great.
I remember when I was on the set and I saw you, you're walking around like an open chest and like open jacket. I was like, what are you doing?
Well, I take cold very well, I guess.
I guess
I just get so focused on the set that I don't even notice how hot or cold it gets, I guess.
I mean, in one scene, Sissy's like, it's warm out tonight, and then you can see her breath as it's like freezing out.
Mm-hmm.
I probably had 5 layers of clothes on and I was still cold.
Yeah.
Wow. But you know what? That's part of the game, because I mean, we as independent filmmakers and actors, we're kind of used to that type of situation. I mean, I've been in heated sets, physically heated. I ran a set once where the heat was incredible. And we were shooting the summer of 2011, which is a rough summer, in Olneyville, Rhode Island. Indoors in a brick building, and I mean, whether it's heat or cold, sometimes you literally have to suffer for your art, and it's not always fun at the time. But when you look at the project like Alone, you see that the hard work pays off because it comes through in the motion picture. In the final project, you can see this lady that Sissy plays going through this emotion, and the winter is actually a character.
Yeah.
It's a character, it's an element of nature, and it's an element of the environment that she's in, and pretty powerful.
I think it brings a lot of reality to the character. I agree with you. It worked. It really did. There was no faking of shaking.
Right, right.
What drew you to the character of Amanda Barnes?
The reality in my own life that one paycheck, I would be homeless myself. That I really like the different dimensions, the depth of Amanda as a person, her control in not really letting anybody know how dire of a situation that she was facing. The fact that no matter what adversities were thrown at her, she was going to survive. She was not going to give up no matter what. And I kind of like have that same mentality. So,
When I edited together the trailer with Brian and then we put it up on YouTube, everyone who I showed it to, and I showed it to as many people as I could possibly think of, they were touched by it, and they felt horrible about this woman who was struggling. They're like, wow, I can't believe that. It was really heart-wrenching to them.
No, that's good, because that's what we like to do as filmmakers, is reach our audience and hopefully make them feel for the characters. So.
Yeah. You know what else surprised me?
What?
When the reaction that we got when we posted the clip on YouTube when Sissy's sitting on the bench,
Yeah,
shivering.
That was originally not going to be in the film. We thought we were going to have to cut it, but fortunately we managed to fit it in there.
Yeah, we'll actually show a little bit of that right now. I mean, can you believe how hard that would be? Actually, you've had some experience with homelessness.
Yeah, I was homeless when I was young, along with my mother and my brother and sister. Fortunately for us, it didn't last too long, but we lived for a month in a shelter in Olneyville, and I experienced living in a car for a couple of weeks. So also a lot of the experience with dealing with unemployment and how difficult and frustrating it can be when you're waiting for money to come from them and you've got no other source of income. It can be very stressful. So a lot of that ended up in the script.
Yeah, I know exactly how that is. I used to work in a call center, and then I was laid off, and then unemployment took forever to get through, and it was really, really stressful. It was driving my stress level through the roof.
Right.
And I was constantly offered these gigs as a videographer, and then I was making too much money to claim unemployment. I was like, wait a minute, I think I found my job, so now I'm an independent videographer, and I'm very thankful that I didn't have to deal with unemployment.
Right.
Isn't it interesting how, as a young person, Brian experienced this really traumatic event? You know, I mean, if you think about it, it is a traumatic situation to be with your family and living in a car for a few weeks. And then several years later, it manifests into a script, which becomes a short film, and really touches people even when they see the trailer or teaser for the movie, and then when they do see the full movie, when they have a chance to do that, it can really benefit people, I think, because then they'll have that empathy, that sympathy for people who are in that situation, and a lot of the viewers probably are experiencing that situation themselves, you know, or close to it.
Well, that's why we're very careful to make sure that the character broke the stereotype people expect from a homeless person. She's not a drug addict, she's not an alcoholic, it's not someone who's lazy. The original concept, she was going to be mentally ill, actually. But
I'm glad you didn't go that way.
well, you know, with everything going on, I figured that her being mentally ill on top of that would just complicate the story.
No, it's very good that it's an average, everyday person.
Yeah.
That makes it more relatable.
Yeah.
Well, as I had mentioned to Brian as well, is that that theme has been beaten to death. You know, and I know that there is a high percentage of people that are homeless due to mental illness situations, but there are so many now that they lost a paycheck, and that's what's happening. And we wanted to bring awareness. We were all together, as you know. I don't know if Mike knows that we were at Phil Hall's on New England Underground Film Festival last Saturday, and I have to say that the audience reaction to the film was really quite overwhelming. Brian had to leave early, but Roland and I were there, and several people made a point of coming over to us and telling us how much that they enjoyed the film. And I didn't really notice them doing that. I mean, all the films were good, and not all the participants in the films that were in the festival were there, but people were really very, very kind to come over and express, you know, how much they enjoyed the film. So that was very nice reception.
I have an anecdote to share. We were actually showing the film at Brian's place, and we had a group of guests, including Mike and someone else. I won't mention his name because I don't want to embarrass him. But at the end of the film, his eyes were starting to turn red.
Oh, really?
Yes, I noticed that because I was
Oh,
gauging
him?
reactions. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, you know, it's powerful, and the power of cinema and storytelling, and this type of film alone is going to move people, you know. And maybe we talk about the process. It's lucky to have the director and the lead actor here. And how did you guys work together? Because you've worked together a little bit before, I'm pretty sure. So, what was there a shorthand having worked together before that you can kind of, or did you really dig into script analysis, or how did you create this?
Well, the character is largely based on my mother, actually. And this was one of the few scripts I've actually written for someone. I actually wrote this for Sissy to star in. And because I had worked with her previously on A Search for a Home, and I was very, very pleased with her work on that project. And so, you know, I just approached her with the story, and that was pretty much it, really. And
Well, we both worked on the character development as well.
yeah.
A lot of times people allow me to do my own wardrobe, which helps me tremendously getting into the character. That works very much for me.
Good. Working from the outside in, the clothing, costume clothing of the character helps your interior mindset. That's great.
It's all part of the process for me.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the rest of the casting process?
Well, most of the people I'd worked with before. Well, I'll start with my crew, actually. John Mostich, I met. He came on our show, and we got to talking about filmmaking. I was just very impressed with his passion for filmmaking, and I knew I wanted to work with him. And once he was on board, then we got David Kopich to do sound, and the three of us worked really well together. I found our DP, Manny Gonzalez. He had come to the premiere for A Search for Home, and you know, we just had a really good team that really gelled well together, and I think that's really what made the difference to make this project go so smoothly. And everybody seemed to enjoy themselves despite the weather and despite, well, mostly just the weather.
Well, it's February, so what are you going to do?
What's that?
It's February, so what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You'll act in the cold and you'll like it.
Yeah.
Well, I prefer shooting in the autumn and winter aesthetically, as far as how outside looks. I like the look of falling leaves and bare trees and all that. As opposed to summer, everything's lush, and I think it kind of takes away from the drama.
Though to be honest, in October, you have to shoot everything the same day outside for a same scene, or it's a continuity nightmare.
Oh, right.
True.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right. Let's think about this for a minute.
I have mentioned this
Yes.
several times, but everybody that was involved in this film truly had their whole hearts and soul into it. Everybody, like Brian said, meshed. It just went so smoothly. Everybody showed up completely prepared, which was wonderful with the flow of the film. And fortunate for me, well, actually, I had never worked with Lanisha in a scene before, but pretty much, or Mark, but a lot of the people that were involved, I knew everybody, so that helped a lot with not having, you know, the process of having to work with somebody that you don't know at all, because basically everybody we had all connected or crossed paths in the industry, you know, one way or the other. So that also helped eliminating, you know, any unforeseen personality conflicts.
Right.
There was none of that. It was a very good set.
You're talking
Very
about
good.
Lanisha Edmonds and Mark Carter, some of your co-stars in the movie, and you know, it's interesting, as the lead actor in the piece, by my memory, you're pretty much in every scene in the film. And taking that position, that authority of the character, it's really like the whole film is kind of working around you. It's not an ensemble piece. This is a star turn, a showcase. As Brian said, he wrote the script with you in mind, or for you is actually the way he put it. It's really what they would call a vehicle, you know, for you to really establish a character that can really move your career forward, Sissy. So it's very exciting, actually, because you never know with the film festival type of deal. And if you eventually, you know, a year from now or whatever, put the whole movie on a platform that people can watch it online, it could really help you out quite a bit.
Oh, well, there is no greater compliment as an actor to be, you know, asked to take a role and be told that, you know, I'm writing this script with you. I mean, being asked to take a role even before that the script is finished.
Right. Yeah, it's exciting.
I had complete faith in her, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'd gotten a small taste of what she could do in A Search for Home. She had some really good dramatic scenes with both Bernie Larrabee and David Graziano, and I guess you know, she was a leading lady, so I wrote it.
Nice.
And, yeah.
There's something else noteworthy of Alone. It was also, out of that project, your first effort at a music video with Diane McAdams singing Hold On.
Yeah, well, I figured the big boys do it, so I figured, and I'm actually surprised more filmmakers in the area don't do music video tie-ins. And I'm actually going to do music videos again for my first feature film. We're going to be doing 3 music videos to tie in because we really want to make a push for distribution and whatever we can do to promote it. And with this one, it was my first time doing a music video. I had met Diane through another friend, Sean England. He suggested her, and I just gave her music a listen, and I met up with her, and I said, well, we want to do a music video for this film. And I told her what the film was about, and she loved the idea, and we just picked a location. We shot it in Colt State Park in Bristol, and there you go.
Yeah. I mean, that song at the end really just sealed the deal with the film.
Yeah, yes.
We also need to mention Steve Vaughn. Steve wrote a wonderful song for the film as well.
Yeah, Steve's very talented, both as an actor and a musician. I've got one of his albums at home, actually. He said, you know, we could use whatever we wanted. I'd met him previously on another project. He's a really great guy to work with, and he's very, very talented, very passionate. And, you know, that's why I made him the lead in my feature. And in fact, we're going to be collaborating musically very shortly on a few songs. So that's me entertaining my passion for music as well, that some people may not know about.
Good. Steve Vaughn is also in This Time Each Year. So musically, what are your musical preferences for songs?
Well, I took concert choir in high school. That's probably how I came out of my shell, as they say, by performing on stage. And I know some people may not see me in front of 400 or 500 people singing, but that's what I did in high school, and I sang, I did a little dancing. And
do a little song and dance and then put on a play.
yeah, so that got me to appreciate, you know, show tunes, pop standards, jazz, and that kind of thing. So, and yeah, so I'd like to do a few songs, kind of jazz, rhythm and blues type of style. And Steve Vaughn has offered to step up and help me write those songs, and he's gonna do. With what I'm doing with him, it's gonna be acoustic numbers though. So.
Getting back to acting now, what drew you to acting, and how did you feel that this role as Amanda Barnes compared to your other roles?
Well, actually, my acting goes back when I was 4 years old. I was on a television program, and then I went into similar. I studied dance for 15 years. I used to go to New York City to compete with the dance troupe that I was with. I had the Sunday morning gig with my best friend playing guitar and singing at the folk mass. I was in choirs, I was in chorus as well. And it was, it'll be 3 years in January that I was at a point in my life where I knew that I had to change and do something for myself. And I honestly sat and thought about, as a child, when people asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, my answer was a movie star or a nun. Well, the nun didn't last very long.
Yeah, I couldn't really picture that.
Please don't think that I think of myself as a movie star. I am just another actor.
Yeah.
But it's a passion. It is, and I also got physically ill, and I spent 7 years pretty much bedridden. And when the word wheelchair was mentioned, I just said to myself, I'm not going out like this. So it's a passion, but it's also very healing for me. And I've been very fortunate because I have been so busy, because if I have a lapse of like 2 weeks when I don't have something to act in, I crash. I really do. I need it constantly to feed me, to keep me going.
I'm pretty similar that way. Not quite physically, but I tend to get very restless when I'm not creating something. That's why I'm always writing, or recently I said I was going to take a few months off from filmmaking, and that didn't really work out.
Yeah.
I started getting some ideas going, and
You got like 3 or 4 projects
yeah,
going after that.
and it's constantly flowing, the ideas, and just when I'm at work or when I'm at home, it just and if I come with something good, I'll write down an idea, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Usually I'll write down an idea, and if I like it a few months later, I'll make it into a screenplay. And this subject matter of homelessness was something I wanted to tackle for quite a while. And I think it was the film A Search for Home that, when you first start doing films, you're kind of finding your voice as an artist, and you're kind of trying to figure yourself out as a filmmaker. And I think it was A Search for Home that led me to the conclusion that I wanted to do more topical films. Not necessarily a preachy way, but just kind of take an important issue and then just make a very human story around it.
Right. Alone doesn't come across as preachy, it just shows the situation as
Right.
it is, and it explains the situation in a way that people might not have thought about it before.
Well, right. I think that's a much more effective way of dealing with it than being preachy, is to just show what it's like. Just like with A Search for Home, when the main character played by Bernie Larrabee is a gay man who comes out of the closet to his wife, and so it kind of subconsciously supports gay rights, but you didn't really just come right out and say that. You just showed this guy's life and what he's going through and why he remained in the closet, why he was dishonest with his wife. But I didn't want to make a character that was without flaw, because I think any good character needs a flaw to even them out, to make them interesting.
Well, nobody's perfect as well.
Right,
We make
right.
characters as realistic as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Except in my case, a lot of the roles I get.
Mike, it looks like you want to say something.
Well, I was going to ask Roland if we have time. What about your role in this process of the creation of the film?
Oh yes, I was the editor of Alone, and it was my first film that I edited, even though I have 10 years of experience as an editor, and that was interesting to do something for a film as opposed to public access.
Sure, narrative. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you approach the piece, Roland?
I enjoyed it. What I did was I looked at the footage, and then I took note of the different takes, and I got a sense of which takes were the good takes, and then I combined the footage, and then I showed it to Brian. He was like, well, why don't we go with that shot? Why don't we go with this shot? Why don't we linger on this a little bit longer? And he just give his suggestions, and then I'd put it together, and I'd show it to him again. And I'd come up with ideas, because sometimes you'd shoot one thing and the character was in one position, and I'd be like, well, that doesn't make sense. What if we cut it like this?
Right.
And then Brian would see my point, and then we do it like that.
Sounds like a good collaboration.
Well, those are best collaborations, is, and when you lose track of what was whose idea, because you just gel together, and any good filmmaker is they'll have their idea, but if someone else has something better, you're gonna go with that. And we had a very effective trailer because of it, that we got a lot of really great feedback on.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, the toughest part of editing with a film, I would say, is the sound mixing.
Oh yeah. Yes, audio is so tough, and
That was probably half the editing. Now, I want to say David did a great job. I'm just saying, syncing up the audio with the camera footage, because if it's even off by a single frame, everyone notices.
right.
That would be David Ryan Kopchak.
Mm-hmm.
He's another great person, extremely talented actor as well.
Yeah.
Or
And
sometimes,
also a really great creative eye. He and John Mosich both had some interesting ideas to add to the narrative shooting.
Yeah, I was thrilled that not just them, but all the other actors that came on board for the project. I was blown away.
Yeah.
I really was. And there was another character, Felicia Noel, she's just an extra, but she's in the background of the scene with Lanisha Edmonds and myself. And she has experienced homelessness herself. and she was just so effective. She was just in the background, but in that scene, her presence was phenomenally effective.
Yeah, that's why I felt like she needed more screen time in that conversation. I definitely want also to give Lanisha more face time as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now we're going to watch a clip of Alone.
Yeah, this one is the eviction scene with Michael Thurber and Barstow.
Yes, that's right.
And John Van Brockman is in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Walsh, please, just a couple of more weeks. My income tax check is coming in.
You're 4 months behind on your rent, Amanda. There's nothing else I can do.
I am begging you, please.
You think you're going to get enough to cover 4 months?
Well, I'll have 2 months, and I'm still waiting on unemployment.
It's not enough. Look, I feel for you. Honestly, I do. But this is a business. You're not giving me any money. If you don't pay me, then I can't pay for the property. Do you understand? I've been lenient. My hands are tied.
I understand. Maybe I can help out. Maybe by cleaning, by cooking,
That's
whatever.
not going to work. Look, you can stay for the weekend, but you have to be out by Monday. That's really all I can do. I'm sorry.
Hey, what's going on?
Mind your own business.
Sorry.
All right, thank you for watching To the Edge, and we'll see you next time.
Never needed the government for anything. And the one time in my life I did, it failed me.
The state's all gone to hell. 10% unemployment. It's getting desperate out there.
I am begging you, please.
You think you're going to get enough to cover 4 months?
A mother shouldn't need her son to bail her out.
Guess we don't need me to tell you it's tough out there.
Haven't seen you for months. How have you been?
You went back? Well, I don't have many options.
Where am I supposed to go?
So your aspiration passed you by, and you lie in bed content. You boasted all your life of bigger things.
One of the worst things about being homeless,
While you were talking, babe,
you have to pretend you are not.
came